Got my eyes straight ahead, got my head in the game. With the red light on, I'm just waiting for the change. Keep my head down low.
Hi, thanks for listening to The Slippery Slope. So, look, I was reading this article just the other day. I thought, well, I don't. It seems frustrating to me when you have people that want to come to this country, and I am very much in favor of immigration. I think it's been good for our country. However, I do think that if you come to this country, you can't start making demands that the country needs to change, needs to bend to suit your ideology or your religion, or because you suddenly feel offended for things, for laws, maybe cultural differences, and then you get offended because it's not the way you want things to be, or it's not the way it was in your country. It seems to defeat the purpose of coming to a new country. So this headline here: Sydney terror charges a double standard, Muslim groups say. Now, one thing I'll say before we get into this is I have noticed of late that when Muslim groups want to say something, this is just an observation I've made, and correct me if I'm wrong, but when Muslim groups want to say something now, it always seems like they will make statements and it'll be a female who's fronting the group. So I think my opinion is that they realize that the Australian media and also just the public in general will maybe be a little politer, maybe will listen a little more if it's a female who's fronting and saying things, who's speaking for the group. Whereas if they have what are they called, an imam standing up there in their robes and the little hat and all that stuff, people just tend to jeer a little more, mock. They will not be as respectful if it's a bloke standing up there. So I've noticed, yeah. Tell me if you reckon I'm out of line, but that's what I think they're doing. It's a bit of a PR stunt now. They'll just have women making their little speeches, speaking on their behalf. Anyway, let's go through this article together. And I think it's out of line. So, look, Muslim groups have slammed differing treatments and police handling of the Bondi Junction stabbing attack and the stabbing of a bishop at a Sydney church, saying the disparate response has left the community traumatized and isolated. 5 teenage boys were charged on Thursday with terrorism offences connected to the stabbing of an Orthodox Christian leader in Wakeley last week. The attack came just days after 6 people were killed by Joel Colchi in a stabbing rampage at Westfield Bondi Junction. So both were disgusting attacks. Okay, one classified falls within the definition of a terrorist attack, and one doesn't. Australia has, I think, they're very clear definitions within Australian law, within the Commonwealth, and also different states. I think the definition's fairly clear, I think, in my opinion. Anyway, so the shopping centre attack was quickly deemed a mental health issue, while the church incident was classified as a terrorist act almost immediately. Muslim groups, including the Alliance of Australian Muslims and the Australian Muslim Advocacy Network, said on Friday. So, Australian National Imams Council, Ramia Abdo Sultan, said the disparity in police response was a double standard and called for an inquiry into the processes leading up to the raids on the teenage boys. I'm going to read this last section. This apparently is also a lawyer and communications relations advisor. If she's a lawyer, I don't know what she's trying to argue here, because, like I said, it seems to be fairly, it falls within the definition very easily, I think. She says the presumption that terrorism is inherently tied to religion is not only inaccurate, but also harmful. Well, no one's saying it inherently ties into religion. Okay, and that's not what the Act says, but that is part of the definition. But here, 5 teenage boys, all under the age of 17, were arrested and charged following 13 raids at homes across Sydney and a week-long investigation into a group allegedly adhering to a religiously motivated, violent extremist ideology. New South Wales police said 3 of the 5 juveniles were charged with conspiring to engage in preparations for a terrorist act. 2 others, 14 and 17, were charged with possessing or controlling violent extremist material through a communication service. Police said group members did not name specific targets, but the ongoing threat and loose nature of the group, including some splinter groups, alarmed authorities. They're allegedly connected to a 16-year-old boy charged with the stabbing of Assyrian Bishop Marie Emmanuel and priest Isaac Royale on April 15. Ms. Sultan said the Muslim community had not been consulted before the police operations or raids. Are you for real? You're supposed to be, you want to be consulted before police do raids. Does anyone else think that there's a sense of entitlement here that's, well, it's not justified. Definitely not justified. But I don't understand how you can have this sense of entitlement. Actually, I think it just comes with their beliefs in general, that sense of entitlement. But anyway, so they want to be consulted. And she goes on and says, this lack of transparency exacerbates the distress within our community. There must be a commitment to meaningful engagement regarding this process. Why does there have to be a commitment with the community and to avoid sensationalism that can cause undue panic and a breakdown of social cohesion? Really. So look, let's just go through. Let's go through what the definition of terrorism acts, and I'll just bring up. Actually, we'll talk about, because this was done in New South Wales, and it's all very similar. I think it's you have the Commonwealth Act, and you have the states that have the terrorism acts are also New South Wales, Queensland, Victoria, and I think the Northern Territory. So I don't believe South Australia or Western Australia or Tasmania have it, but obviously you have Commonwealth Act anyway. So let's talk about, I'll bring it up here so we can all have a look, because this was done in New South Wales. So let's have a look at what their act says. So Terrorism, Police Powers Act 2002. So this is the definition of terrorist act. Now, like I said, I'm talking about this because this was done in New South Wales. General, in this act, terrorist act means an action where, let's go to subsection B, the action is done with the intention of advancing a political, religious, or ideological cause. Now, remember when she says, it's not always inherently tied to religious beliefs. Well, they didn't say it's not defined as inherently defined to tied to religious beliefs. It could also be political or just ideological. But the thing is, I believe Islam, and I believe these people, they believe there's issues with their book, there's issues with Islam, and they find it hard to defend when it comes to terrorism in Islam, and saying that Islam doesn't encourage terrorism. Anyway, so it's with the intention of advancing a political, religious, or ideological cause. I also think this is why a lot of the climate change protests, I think they should be, and maybe she hasn't got a point with this, but I believe this, the climate change issues, protests can fall into, they should be charged with terrorism. Anyway, the action is done with the intention of coercing or influencing by intimidation the government of the Commonwealth or a state, territory, or foreign country, or of part of a state, territory, or foreign country, intimidating the public or a section of the public. So listen, the difference between what happened at the Bondi Shopping Centre and what happened with, when, this boy attacked and tried to kill the bishop, The difference is you've got a man who suffers from mental health issues. He was terrorizing a shopping center, but he wasn't. Go back to their definition, okay? His actions weren't done with the intention of advancing a political, religious, or ideological cause. He suffered a mental health issue and he had murder on his mind, murder in his heart. He was a bad man. He's got issues, but it's not terrorism. He's not trying to coerce. He's not trying to influence by intimidation the government or a state or territory. And he's not trying to intimidate the public or a section of the public. It would be terrifying for those people who were there at the time. But he's not trying to influence. He's not trying to coerce. Okay, so it doesn't fall into that definition. The issue is when you're going out and you're saying you're doing things in the name of a religion, in the name of your ideology, because you want to coerce, because you are trying to intimidate, influence the government to bend to your will. It's always going to fall. Not always. I won't say always. That's why it falls into this definition of terrorism. That's why. I mean, I have to say, Ms. Sultan, you're a lawyer. Words actually matter. The definition of words actually matter, okay? And just because it doesn't suit the narrative that these people want to put forward, that Islam is a fun-loving, peace-loving religion or ideology, it doesn't suit their narrative. Unfortunately, that's what Islam is. The main purpose of Islam and of people who follow Islam is to convince other people to submit and follow Islam. The problem is, it says that if they do not submit, then you can kill them. That's the issue. And this is the issue that Ms. Sultan has. It doesn't suit the narrative that they are trying to put forward of Islam being a peaceful religion. Therefore, they want the police, they want the government to bend to their will. They want the government to consult them so that no one gets the wrong idea or what they think is the wrong idea, because they're trying to push forward this narrative, peace and love. But unfortunately for them, their religion, the very book that they follow, doesn't support the narrative that they're trying to push. Anyway, I'm Jay Fallon. Let me know what you think. Thanks for listening to The Slippery Slope.
They just fuel a desire that will take me higher. I'm on fire because nothing's gonna bring me down. Nothing's gonna bring me down. Nothing's gonna stop me now. No more deals to be done. And nothing's gonna just focus on me goal. Nothing's gonna stop me now. Nothing's gonna hold me down. Got my eye on the prize.